I gave him my youth, my loyalty, my entire life, and now he wants to take the little that I have left." Those were not platitudes shouted in an empty courtroom. They were words that shook across television screens, cell phones, and social media pages as millions followed along in real time. This was not merely a fight about property for Janelle Brown, it was a fight for legitimacy. Hi friend, I'm Ania, welcome back to Core Wealth. And today we are looking at the point when Janelle drew her line in the sand, a point that changed everything. For nearly 30 years, Janelle had stood by Cody Brown in a spiritual marriage, navigating the chaos of a polygamous household. She had always been the steady one, the voice of reason, the calm in the storm. While others wrestled with jealousy and competition, Janelle kept her focus on raising her children and protecting her finances. But that calm came at a cost. And here's the irony. With each passing year, her voice disappeared from Cody's world. Especially after Robin arrived, vows were made, then broken. Choices were made, but never for her. The moment of truth? When Janelle finally started making plans to build her dream house on Coyote Pass property, a property she'd invested in, Cody shut her down legally. Papers, contracts, no-goes. And Janelle's comeback sliced through like a cold knife. "After all I've contributed, you want to control me with papers, not this time." That was the moment when the spark was lit. Janelle retained an attorney, and in a flash, the wife who had once played by Cody's rules was now being confronted by him in court. Then picture this, a cool Flagstaff morning, news trucks along the street, internet fans whirring on. In the room, the air so thick you can nearly choke on it. Janelle, rock steady and unwavering. On one side, her sons Logan and Gabriel, both weary of years of disappointment, on her other side. Cody, tailored suit, Robin at his side, and an arsenal of attorneys ready to fight. But this was not a TLC storyline. This was real life, real law, real consequences, real stakes. When Janelle's lawyer began, the mood in the courtroom shifted. "Your Honor, my client invested tens of thousands into Coyote Pass. She was guaranteed land. That wasn't provided. We're here for her rightful share." Then it was Cody's turn. His lawyer responded elegantly. "The house is in the family trust. There's no one individual who has rights. Mr. Brown just asks for justice for all." But justice? Janelle's eyes betrayed otherwise. Years of patience, waiting, silence. When she did speak, her voice trembled, but not broke. "I gave everything. I was always promised my place. I waited, and I waited. And while I waited, he constructed dreams with Robin. This isn't about land. This is about being erased." The gallery gasped. Christine Brown, remarried and above the family mayhem, folded her arms and nodded silently in sympathy. Even Mary moved uncomfortably. And Robin? She gripped Cody's hand tighter, her face a mask of discomfort. The judge called a recess, but by then the story had already been altered. This wasn't property law, it was an accounting. And Janelle wasn't finished. She laid out receipts, PayPal invoices, emails from Cody himself, all records proving she had paid into that property. And now, this was not just a wife complaining about a problem, this was a wife with proof. This is where things really get hot. One of those emails from Cody stated, "You'll have the top plot, Jan, it'll be yours." And another, "You've paid more than anyone, I assure you'll have your spot." The paper trail didn't deceive. Cody's team had prepared for emotions. What they got was evidence. And then Janelle's gut check of reality. Families don't lie to family. Families don't steal what doesn't belong to them. I stayed in that freezing trailer because I believed him when he said my house was coming, but the whole time it never was. The room fell silent. Cody clenched his teeth. Reporters struggled to get dispatches out. Twitter hashtags erupted, where Team Janelle was trending. And on day 2, Janelle's lawyer delivered the knockout blow, a signed $20,000 check by Janelle to the family trust with the annotation, Janelle's future lot. Gasp filled the courtroom. Even Mary's composure cracked. This wasn't about vows anymore. This was betrayal in black and white. And finally, the emotional climax. Janelle reading a letter she had written years ago but never sent. I've carried your children, supported your dreams, stayed silent through storms, and kept faith in you. But you only build with those who feed your ego. I don't want revenge. I want peace. And I want the land I paid for. Tears were shed in the courtroom. Even Robin couldn't hide her unease. But the phrase that broke it all? Janelle turning to Cody and saying, No, Cody, I didn't leave you. I woke up. When the judge recessed, one thing was clear. This was no longer an argument about marriage. This was a fight for dignity, justice, and self-respect. And the next hearing was going to be the most incendiary session yet, because the children were going to take the stand. And that's where everything might be changed. Reporters flocked to the courthouse in a flashbulb explosion, eager to snap what was shaping up to be one of reality TV's most explosive meltdowns. Cody arrived with Robin, their faces carefully calm, but nothing could contain the hurricane churning underneath. The judge's gavel cracked through the air. Both sets of attorneys rose, and suddenly years of unspoken truths were about to let loose. Janelle's lawyer didn't waste any time. It's not about money, Your Honor. It's about respect, dignity, and justice long overdue. He stated it simply. Janelle had devoted her life to the Brown family dream, working, sacrificing, even paying for houses she would never own. She wasn't married to Cody legally, wasn't legally owed anything, but her contribution eclipsed even Robin's. And now, Robin was the only wife with legal rights, assets in her name, and real estate. The evidence began to cascade in. Family documents, texts, early sister wives footage, moments that caught Cody's conflicted loyalties, and his increasingly isolating pullouts from Janelle and her children. One display brought the room to a hush. The Coyote Pass property, years promised to all of them, introduced in court to be in Cody and Robin's names alone. Gasps filled the courtroom as screens flashed with Cody's own words. Promises of equal shares, promises now nothing more than shattered vows. And then the bombshell. Janelle had contributed over $200,000 in payments on family-owned properties, including the mortgage payments on Robin's house when they were struggling. What did Janelle receive in return? Nothing. Not a title, not a deed, not even her name on a single piece of property. She walked out with just the car she drove in, her attorney said. Janelle spoke quietly, enumerating the side work she had done, the inheritance she had squandered, the vacations she had skipped. Her voice cracked only once. I believed in the dream. I thought it was for all of us. But in the end, it was never meant to include me. Cody's lawyers shot back with the case framed as a personal choice, reminding the judge that plural marriage isn't a question of legal entitlement. But the trial had already spilled onto the streets outside the courthouse. Social media followers were live tweeting each development. Hashtags, "Mind Justice for Janelle" and "Brown Family Breakdown" trended worldwide. Out in the street, reporters framed it as something bigger, a cultural reckoning for women in polygamous marriage. Back home again, the tension was greatest when Cody himself was called to the witness stand. On oath, the judge asked, "Did you ever make verbal promises of ownership or payment to Janelle Brown?" Cody paused, looked over at Robin and muttered, "We had family agreements, but nothing in writing." The judge leaned forward. "And do you think those assumptions led to Ms. Brown making money decisions in the best interests of herself and her children?" Cody shifted awkwardly. "I guess so." That single concession shook like a punch. It was the first time in public his account had been breached. And just when things couldn't get more dramatic in the courtroom, Cody's kids testified. Her voice pierced the quiet. My mum started this family. She sacrificed everything, and then she was just left out. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Cody's kids were no longer his pillar of strength. Now they were testifying against him. Janelle wept quietly, not for defeat, but for the relief of being heard. The judge ended on a vow. Final documents would be read, and division or restitution would be decided at the next hearing. But in the outside world, the verdict in the court of public opinion already hung in the air. Janelle wasn't just an ex-wife, she was a symbol of empowerment. But Cody's squad wasn't finished. They fought back strongly, accusing Janelle of rewriting history and playing victim. But the defense collapsed when Janelle's lawyer presented private messages between Cody and his financial advisor. In one of them, Cody had said, "Janelle doesn't need to know. She trusts me enough not to ask questions. Let's move forward without her signature." The courtroom erupted. Janelle sat impassive, her eyes glued on Cody. Robin placed a hand on his spine, but even she couldn't conceal her terror. The judge erupted. "Mr. Brown, explain why you excluded Miss Brown from key money decisions." Cody stammered, "I was guarding the family. I thought it was leadership." The judge was not impressed. Leadership doesn't need to be about secrecy. And then, a shock. Robin herself testified. Everyone anticipated that she would come to Cody's defense forthwith, but rather she confessed, "Yes, I gained. Yes, the decisions were made without the other wives. I didn't stop it." The gallery broke into gasps. Cody glared at her, but Robin never looked him in the eye. Finally, Janelle stood up to approach the stand. Her voice was strong, resolute. "I gave him 30 years, love, loyalty, children. I followed rules I didn't make, but he rewrote those rules. He used love as leverage, faith as a shield, power as a weapon. I'm not angry anymore. I'm awake." The judge concluded with words that landed with the force of a gavel strike. This case isn't about divorce, it's about responsibility. And just when the drama seemed at its height, there was a sudden anonymous leak into the news. An audio recording of Cody losing his cool on the phone, shouting, "She's going to destroy everything I've built. I never should have left her in charge of the finances." The tape unleashed a storm overnight. By the time court resumed, Cody was no longer the confident patriarch. He was a man fraying at the seams. His once loyal family now acted as his accusers. As the final day of hearings commenced, the air was electric. The judge arrived, the courtroom grew quiet, and the outcome was in the balance. Janelle stepped forward assuredly. Cody was rigid, his face pale, and everybody who saw them knew the next word spoken in that courtroom could silence the Brown name forever. "Your Honor," Janelle began, her voice steady but infused with feeling. "I devoted myself to an unconventional family for years because I believed. I raised children with Cody. I stood by him during public embarrassment. I absorbed the economic burdens, religious differences, and personal sacrifices. I asked for no more than my share. But when the family began to unravel, when he chose one wife above all the rest, I insisted on respect, and I was disregarded instead." Shiver of gasps ran through the gallery. Janelle's eyes fell for the first time that day on Cody. "I'm not here to destroy him. I'm here to protect what's mine and my children's, so the life we built is not lost because he walked out." The judge stepped forward, head nodding slowly, as though weighing each word in his hands. Then came Cody. His lawyer stood up with a burst of fire not yet seen. Cody ascended onto the stand, visibly shaken. "I never wanted this," he said, his shaking hand. "I love Janelle. I love our children. But things change. Relationships change. Even in plural marriage, nothing stays the same forever. I did my best. I compromised. But she ended our spiritual relationship. She left. I didn't drive her out." "Objection, mischaracterization," Janelle's attorney snapped. "Sustained," replied the judge. However, Cody persisted, his voice shaking. I just want fairness. I invested in that property too. I gave my money, my time, my heart, my soul. And now I feel like I'm being villainized in a book I helped author. The room was tense, each ear waiting. But just when it seemed that both sides were out of argument, Janelle's attorney performed a masterful trick. Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Madison Brown to the stand. The crowd erupted into whispers. Cody's kid, Janelle's kid, was going to be testifying. Madison came over, stern and unyielding, and her presence altered the tone of the trial. When the judge finally rendered his decision, there was a quiet in the courtroom. Ms. Brown, this court recognizes your monetary and personal contributions. You are awarded a 50% interest in the property at issue, along with custody of the minor children you have in your care. Then he turned to Cody. Your contributions are recognized, but your failure to treat your wives fairly, particularly Janelle, overshadows this finding. The gavel descended. The courtroom buzzed. Cody stood there, head bowed, still. Janelle exhaled a sigh, tears streaming in abundance. But this time they were not tears of despair. They were tears of triumph. On the sidewalk outside, reporters jostled. Microphones reached out for her, but Janelle's response was even keel, measured, "This never was about revenge. It was about truth and setting the record straight." Minutes later, Cody slipped out the side door, face firm, not a word to be said. Silence was preferable to him than explanations. The ruling set them back less than legally won. It was a cultural moment. For years, fans had sensed fissures in the Brown empire. Now they were watching the backlash. What began as a courtroom struggle over property had turned into something more, a story of empowerment. Janelle was far removed from the meek, obedient wife to this woman who spoke her mind and wasn't going anywhere. Cody's downfall wasn't only in court, it was personal, a cautionary tale of what happens when love becomes control and family is business. And so the curtain closed on one of the most tempestuous feuds in reality TV history. But if anything, experience with the Browns has shown us this. With this family, nothing is ever truly over.